I think it says it. Hello, good morning to you. We apologize for that slight hitch. You're watching Galaxy today, coming to you from Galaxy Television. We're looking at building collapse on the show this morning. I was saying that just Wednesday last week, a building collapsed and lots of children were killed. Some people suffered various degrees of injury at the Tafaji area of Lagos Island. And then 2 days later, another building collapsed in Bode area of Ibadan, Oyo State. And we're not really happy about it. It is so sad that buildings are collapsing. What are the issues? What are we not getting right? What are the things that we should be discussing this morning so that Nigerians don't just end up losing their lives on a daily basis? So we have guests here in Lagos, Ogun State, Oyo State, and of course in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, who will be joining us in this conversation. Before we get to introduce our guests, let us just take snippets and fallout from the building collapse in Oyo State on Friday. Do join us again. So I don't understand.
They don't even go up again, so they just can't stay beside. So the thing can't happen. 3 people condemned. They tell you say 3 people condemned. More live to work. They say they no, nothing go happen.
They don't already know before this day.
They don't see them now. They see 3 people condemned.
For down floor.
For down floor. So you know nothing go happen. Even we were there up, we say we no go work am again. Okay. They say no, nothing go happen. No, just come down. All of us come down. So they can say okay, we can't wait like 5 minutes. They can say okay, more go up. They will find solution. So they will find solution for that thing. Say okay, we begin the go. So the thing now how we do say, I'm not even sure we don't have like the thing come collapse.
Emergency services that are available were contacted. The police raced to the scene. The fire service are here. We are seeking assistance from companies and others that have excavators to do the job of lifting heavy objects. 3 people so far have been rescued from the report. We understood that there are a few people, other people under the rubble, and efforts are still ongoing to make contact, even if it means contacting neighboring states, to assist in the rescue of those who are there alive. That we will do.
At the site, and we have commenced some investigation. At this point, I will want to say that we are going to leave this site briefly to be back on our investigation, and by the time I come back, I'll be able to give you fuller information. I just want to assure you that so far, we thank God, no life was lost. Nobody is under the ground, but we are trying to gather those who can give us adequate information, and in a short while I'll be back to give you an update.
As we go straight into the discussion proper, joining us here in our Lagos studio is estate surveyor and town planner. Let's make welcome ESV Biodun Olakbade. Many thanks for joining us on Galaxy today this morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. It's good to have you on the show.
Good morning.
Okay, let's start with the building that happened a couple of, almost a week now, about a couple of days ago. We had a building collapse in Lagos. And then just 2 days after, it happened again in Ibadan. And out of Lagos, we were told that it actually been marked for demolition, but then it wasn't demolished, and it ended up, collapsing, and then lives were lost in that state. As an estate surveyor, I thought that before a building is erupted, before you construct a building, I don't know how they do it. You see a town planner before to know what the map of that serenity is. So I want you to tell us from an angle of an estate surveyor as well as a planner, for the buildings to have collapsed, are we going to say that they were not well built, or was it that it was wrongly built, or would we say that probably the town planners failed to do their duty or something? I want you to speak to us from your own angle as an estate surveyor.
Thank you very much. Let me first of all correct the impression. I'm not a town planner.
Okay.
I'm an estate surveyor and filer.
Okay.
But I have a background in housing, which is an aspect of town planning.
Town planning.
Now,
okay.
when you look at building, is a unit of housing. And when you look at housing, it's largely in the hands of individuals rather than government, unlike in other countries.
Yes.
Be residential, commercial, you find out that it is the private developers that do more than government. And as you know, for a private person who is going for business, you want to cut corner. Cutting corner by not engaging the right professionals from the beginning, cutting corner by avoiding town planning regulations and authority that were approved, using substandard materials, and so on and so forth. But let me just take us away from that. We all know that a house without a good foundation, it will not work. And structurally, structural engineers are in place, but let me just take us from all those ones. Now, you look at it that, what are the issues? People concentrate more at the city centers. You find out that most of these things are happening in the city centers, Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Ibadan. There is much of concentration at the city center. And people tend to change use. A house designed for residential, because the market has just engulfed it, they turn it into commercial, and there will be mixed users. Look at the one in Lagos. The concentration at Itafaji is that it used to be residential. Imagine market came in and enveloped the residential area. Instead of the buildings that will be pulled down for the purpose that is now being used, people are indiscriminately changing the use. Now you find out that in that building, you find residential, you find a school, which is not supposed to be. The house was not, maybe the house was even built several years ago, developed by a developer who was ready to go. So these are so many issues. Until we get it right, that we decentralize the city centers, and we have effective transportation. For instance, for each of the CBD in Ikeja, Iyanapaki, I'm taking Lagos for an instance. If you have city centers and you have complementary uses in such a way there will be good network of roads that people can commute easily, there won't be much attention at the city centers where you find out that a house that is designed for 10 people, 100 people are living there. There's the life and the dead loads on those structures, and it could get weakened, and so on and so forth.
Okay, we'll come back to you, ESV Olakbade. Let's go to Ibadan for a bit and get reactions. And let us be brought up to speed as we get what happened there at Bode Monitor area in Ibadan. We have two guests standing by. We have Slako Lugard Bijimi. He is the coordinator, the National Emergency Management Agency, Southwest Zonal Office. Also joining us is Akin Makin, the Executive Secretary of the Oyo State Emergency Management Agency. Let me start with you, Mr. Bijimi. Let's talk about the incident on Friday when you got to the site of the building collapse. What were your assessments and any results from your findings so far?
Yes. When we arrived there, we saw that there was need for excavation. And we all moved to the site. And the first challenge we saw was that there was so much crowd that even when the excavators came, it was difficult to start response. However, we did our best and we responded all the same. And at the end of it, it was successful as 2 people were evacuated and taken to hospital.
I'd like to push this to you. I mean, you are a state emergency management, you work with the state emergency management agency. I want you to actually tell us what, from your own assessment, what would you say was the cause of the fall? What did you actually see? What was the reason? And how would you say it should have been managed?
Very much. When we got there, we discovered that that building does not have a foundation. And as a matter of fact, the deck was did not quite 7 days, and it started erecting on it. And they even discovered that one of the pillars was defective, and the engineer just told them to patch it with cement and go ahead. What I can say particularly is that substandard materials were used. The rules and regulations guiding construction were not duly followed. Because if you look at it very well, there was not anything to show like there was a foundation in that building. And it is in view of this that His Excellency has directed that an investigation should be carried out from our head to prevent such an occurrence in the future.
Statistics and figures that came out from that particular building collapse in Ibadan. Were they any death victim? How many number of casualties? What's the present situation as we speak?
And like we said, there wasn't any casualty whatsoever. 2 people that were buried underneath that collapsed building were evacuated and were swiftly taken to hospital for treatment. I'm happy to tell you that the state government has taken up their treatment now, and the situation is calm. I'm happy to tell you that.
Mr. Bijimi, let me put this question to you now. Looking at the National Emergency Management Agency, I want to talk about your proactiveness and what you have on ground. 2 days before it happened in your state, there was a building collapse in Lagos State. I want to find out what equipment are you really combat ready per se, to to handle issues of building collapses, specifically where the population is very, very dense, like what happened on Lagos Island, on Wednesday. Most times, usually an issue gets into the particular area where, those collapses and happen. Talk about equipment. Run us through the kind of equipment you have. Do you have issues with resources? What are the challenges, really?
Yes, I want to correct an impression. The National Emergency Management Agency is not actually a response agency per se. So we leverage on other stakeholders for resources. And I
All right, we'll try and see if we can reconnect with Ibadan. We seem to be having a little bit of a challenge there. We'll still go to Abeokuta in a bit, but let's talk to our guest here in Lagos, Mr. Biodun Olakwade. Let's talk about where plans have been approved for buildings, and eventually, the changes are made. Your organization is one that is involved in making sure that buildings and lives are actually done according to standard. But the truth is that what happens, what has your organization, your group done in that instance where people get planned to do a particular construction? At the end of the day, some years later, they go back and redo another plan.
Well, thank you very much. Well, when you are talking of organizations, there are professional bodies, yes. There are government agencies, and there are NGO. NGO in the sense, Building Collapse Prevention Grid, that I represent here now. I'm a trustee of the board. We have discussed a lot on those ones. Everything lies on the government. A voluntary organization like Building Collapse Prevention Grid, we have our limitations. But the government that has the control, regulation and control better, they are in a better position. But when you see this government too, there are major problems. The major problem is the political will. Once there is a political will, the things will get done. For instance, we have agencies like LAPSCA in Lagos. When such agencies are not properly strengthened,
okay,
they are not.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead,
they are not properly strengthened. They lack personnel. And even when you look at development is supposed to follow planning. Mm-hmm. But you find out that it is development that comes first before the planning. Because of the lack of human resources, they cannot cope. The government agencies cannot cope. For instance, you look at the number of houses. I've said it earlier, look at the concentration of people in Lagos Island. These are areas that are purely residential, but now there are emerging markets that have enveloped the whole area. And people will tend to look for shops and other things. Development is not just about approval. It is about, even when the whole buildings are pulled down, there's the need for monitoring.
Okay, we'll come back to you, sir. Sorry to butt in. We are getting signals now from Ogun State. Let's quickly see if we can take them so we can still come back to Lagos. We have Engineer Olarinwaju Apangba, Chairman, Nigerian Society of Engineers, Abeokuta branch. Many thanks for joining us on Galaxy today as we look at this issue of building collapse in the Build to Cabinet. Right now, there's always been this talk and trend of quacks and quackery in the industry, specifically the NSE. What have you done to check those trends? Because sometimes you find out that we are putting square pegs in round holes. A lot of professionals that or supposed professionals, that should be involved in the building construction, work, are not really professionals. They are quacks. So what has the NSE done in this regard?
That most of the problems of building collapse in Nigeria is as a result of quacks in the industry. We are trying to, step our collaboration with the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, that's correct, to go around sites, and we have been doing that. Current has a body called ERM, Engineering Regulations Monitoring. NSE is the core of that body. And here in Abeokuta, we have been going around trying to ensure that we weed out quacks from building sites. What we need is more support from government in this regard. NSE is an association of engineers. It's voluntary. We don't have enforcement powers. We can only control our own members who err. Non-members are difficult to control because they do not subscribe to the association. But as current, we do try to report wherever we can and try and see that they are brought to book. Again, current also has only leverage on its own members. Wherever these members are found, current does take action. However, as we have seen, most, if not all, the cases of building collapse are as a result of quacks in the industry. We are ever willing and ready as NSE to partner with government. Indeed, we've at several occasions extended our hands of cooperation and fellowship to government at various levels. Sometimes we do get the cooperation, and sometimes it's a bit slow in coming. But by and large, we're doing our best here in Abeokuta.
Last question, so we can actually let you go. You've talked about how your society has been able to, do a lot of activities to address the issue of quackery. Let us talk about, going forward right now, building collapse now. What would you suggest, aside from the fact that we need to stem this issue of quackery, in the board? What other angles can we, begin to look at?
The issue of building collapse is about our propensity as a people at this stage of our development to sidetrack the due process of getting things done. For a building, the due process starts with the design, architectural design by a qualified architect. Where it goes beyond a bungalow, you do need a structural engineer to do your structural designs. That is the structure of the building, the basic skeleton of that building. The beams, the slabs, the columns, the skeleton. And without that skeleton being in sound condition, you're going to have an unsafe and an unsound structure. So for any building that's not a bungalow, you do need a structural engineer for design. After that, you also need to go to site with competent professionals in the built environment, qualified engineers, qualified builders. Now, in other climes, what happens is that at critical moments in your building construction, you have mandatory inspections that have to be done by officials of government who are professionals in these areas I've talked about. Professional structural engineer, professional builder, and others like that. Now, those professionals have to certify the building at each of those critical stages. For example, your foundation work has to be certified before you cast it and cover it up. Again, when you are casting your deck, it has to be certified that the reinforcement in the deck slab, is adequate and according to the design. Also, overall site management must be under the control of a qualified builder, so that you don't have things like formwork that is yielding. For example, the one in Ibadan it collapsed while under construction. So now with that, that tells us that okay.
Ibadan, we've been speaking with engineer Olariwa Drabamba. He's the chairman, Nigerian Society of Engineers, Abeokuta chapter. Just to remind you that you can be a part of this conversation, feel free to interact with us on social media using the hashtag Galaxy Today. You can send a question, a comment if you have any via SMS. The number will be displayed shortly, and our guests here in Lagos and in Abuja will attend to them. We're going to take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll be talking about what the role of the Nigerian Institute of Building is concerning this issue of building collapse. Of course, we still have a state surveyor here, Abiodun Olakpade, with us here in Lagos, and Sema and Nema in Oyo. In a moment, we'll be back with more. Stay with us.
To be honest with you, I'm satisfied with what I've seen. The patient was one of the victims of the three-story building that collapsed. We are here on behalf of the government, the governor, and good people for your state on humanitarian grant to see how all the patients that were victims of last night incident, how they are faring. I examined him personally, and I've also spoken to the doctor, taking care of him. He has minor injuries in his legs. He's not unconscious. He has no fracture in his skull, and his abdomen and other part of the body are systemically normal. I've already got the telephone number of the emergency room casualty doctor. I'm going to follow him up to see if there's any further need of care that we need to do, either on the basis of our own hospital or here at UCH. Above all, the governor, out of his kindness and mercy, has decided to more or less take care of the bills.
Welcome back. It is still Galaxy Today. We're going straight to Abuja, where we have Builder Kenneth Ndoka. He is the president, Nigerian Institute of Building. Many thanks for joining us on the show this morning. I just want to get your perspective concerning the building collapses in Lagos and in Oyo. What were your thoughts? What were your findings? What do you think we can or should be addressing right now?
Well, thank you for having me on the program. And I must say, before I pass any comments on what has happened, I must yield my sympathy and condolences to the families of those innocent children whose lives were wasted because of the setting we have in the country. Addressing the issue of what must have given rise to that collapse, it needs to be mentioned that collapse is not just one stop. The issue of collapse or causes of collapse is not a one-stop shop issue. It has a multiplicity of reasons, and like the one we are having, obviously the quality of delivery of that building and the application, the misuse of the design use of the building could be taken as a reason why that collapse occurred. But we must know that the information we have already was that that building has been marked down for demolition. And if that building has been marked down for demolition, it simply implies that something must have been found that is inconsistent with the safety paradigms and structural integrity of that building. So for now, it may be overstating the obvious or having an obtuse perception to say that this is the particular cause of the collapse until the issues are properly and scientifically evaluated.
still talking about building construction, let us talk about your institute. We talked to the engineer in Ogun State, and he talked about what the NSC is doing concerning quackery. You know, most Nigerians, when they tend to erect buildings, they just want to use the average bricklayers and the foremen. You know, let's talk about your own institute. You know, have you been able to handle the issue of quacks and quackery? You know, what would you say to the average Nigerian building? Because most people feel there's really no need to employ the services of builders or a professional builder when constructing or erecting a building. Tell us how far your institute has gone towards that particular issue.
You see, one of the things why seemingly the public has not heard from NIOB since this collapse manifested has to do with the fact that we've shouted ourselves coarse on issues that has to do with building collapse. And when we're talking about quackery, we wouldn't want to have the opportunities like this to come and trade blames on who caused what and what caused what. The fact and the real fact is that we have issues of ethics and the issues of attitude. Professionally, in this country, professions are not recognized for the role they are performing. The attitude of our people is such that they would always want to devise shortcuts to cut corners in order to maximize profits, obviously. As for the issue of quacks, I must tell you that quackery is something that has infested the realms of all aspects of building profession, building environment professions. But for the builders, we noticed that that is a challenge. We started with making sure that we periodically train our people. We started with ensuring that the public is rightly sensitized on the rules, specific rules of all the members of the built environment profession. And above all, we realized that whatever design is, how beautiful it is, how functional it is the skilled manpower, the skilled artisans and craftsmen that use their hands to put them in the correct and the expected design setting that are used to deliver on this project. So we saw the need to concentrate on training the artisans, craftsmen, because the National Building Code assigned the Nigerian Institute of Building and Builders the roles of managing these people on site in order to achieve maximum efficiency in project delivery. So that is one area where we are seriously looking at. And as I'm telling you now, all builders are crisscrossing the whole of this country, length and breadth of this country, training and evaluating artisans and craftsmen that are involved in building construction industry. And that is one. The other thing there is that we have created opportunity for us to interface with the general public through schools, sensitization programs that will make people know what they are doing. And two, we have also interfaced with members, the other professional bodies, for us to see how best we can achieve this goal by trying to see how we can sideline quackery in our activities. Today, as I'm talking to you, the building code that is supposed to drive all this is still in the cooler. It has been reviewed, and the government, we hope that they should awaken from the lethargy, and the National Assembly should awaken from the lethargy to see to it that this wonderful book, this wonderful code that will solve most of these problems we're exposed to today, that it is put into law so that it can be statutorily enforced. Somebody was mentioning, somebody that was one of us there, was talking about the stage certification of work process. The National Building Code provides for that, where at every point in time, all those who took part in any stage of that work, professionally speaking, should certify that work and indemnify both the client and the public of the safety and integrity of that project delivery. These are the things we are begging Nigerians to help us plead to the government and the National Assembly to ensure that that National Building Code is legislated upon so that they can have a teeth of law to bite.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking with Builder Kenneth Nduka. He is the president of the Nigerian Institute of Building, and he has joined us from Abuja this morning to look at all of the issues and challenges in the building industry and what we need to do as a people to forestall these issues of building collapse. Many thanks once again for joining us. We'll go to Ibadan shortly, but let's talk to Biodun Olakbade here in Lagos now before we move to Ibadan. Let's talk about substandard materials, because aside from quackery, some professionals also still, use materials that are not really up to standard. And some people would say, school of thought believes that when you use substandard, materials for your building, that over time it might not collapse immediately, but over the years it might start giving in. What are your thoughts really concerning substandard materials for building constructions?
Well, a lot have been said here that housing delivery is largely in the hands of private people rather than public. And for every businessman, we want to cut his costs. Cut costs, not just on building materials alone. We do not want to engage the right professionals. You find out that most of the engineers on site are welders and bricklayers. That's by way of cutting corner. Because if you call a professional, you pay adequate fee. Then the same thing goes to the controlling agencies, the agencies that control. They find their way of bribing, their ways of not getting the right approval. For instance, there is integrity reports that you need to obtain. Most people circumvent all those ones, all in the means to cut costs, and so on and so forth. Now, we have said it here and from Ibadan Station or Abeokuta Station, that at every stage there is a need for certification. Now, the building materials are basically, even if you use the wrong water to mix concrete, it gives, where you have all the right material, the right cement, but the water is not the right water to be used. It causes defective. And when you look at cement, some cements are not, they have overstayed for use. Then the gradient of the granite to be used for each categories of works are specified. In some cases, instead of using granite, you see people using gravel, most of which are sands. And that is why when you see a quantity surveyor giving you a bill estimate, that this house will cost you 10 million naira, you say, no, that's a quantity surveyor's estimate. I will use 7 million naira. But by the time the quantity surveyor is quantifying it, he has put the right perspective in the way it should be done properly. But in order to cut costs, the question is, how can we reduce all those things? And we should be talking on what are the possible solutions. And the solutions is that all of us, professionals, including journalists, we need to expose ourselves. But not just limited to professionals, engineers, or those in the environmental, the print and electronic medias. They should be able to be exposing all these buildings that are defective, so that government can use the iron hand. Look at the executive power given by the Lagos Excellence now.
Can I butt in here? We keep saying government and the rest. Is there not supposed to be a regulatory body that oversees these? I mean, we see people having issues over properties. You purchase a property, there's issue on it. You finally want to build on it, there are issues, and after building. And I thought that when it comes as a surveyor, I mean, some soil, I don't know if that's what you call, are good for some certain thing, while some ain't. Now, if I'm to build somewhere close to the waterside, I mean, some measurement of some kind of materials are required, different from if I'm to build on a rocky ground. Now, I thought that there should be a regulatory body. Is there a regulatory body regarding this?
Well, all professional bodies in Nigeria are properly regulated.
Okay.
But how many of us consult professionals?
And there's no penalty for those who do not consult.
Well, the issue is who corrects what. When you want to cut costs, instead of, for instance, you are mentioning a house that is near a river or in a marshy land, you need a soil test before you do anything. But will the client that want to maximize profit think it fit that a geotechnologist need to be consulted to get the right information? Then you go to a structural engineer who design based on the soil test availability and other things, and then you go to government again. So it's a collaborative effort. And collaborative effort, professionals, the society at large, and the government. And when I'm saying professionals, I want to mention about journalists. Now we are talking of building collapses in two ways: those under construction and those one that are existing. There are so many buildings that are exposed, that are in danger position. Let the media expose them, put it in the paper, put it so that there will be awareness.
Okay,
the awareness is not right.
That we will do. But let's just take Ibadan as we begin to round off. But then again, I'll ask you a question when we come back from Ibadan concerning how many Nigerians, actually do patronize professionals in their building constructions. Okay, let's get final words from NEMA coordinator, Southwest Zone Office, and of course Executive Secretary of the Oyo State SEMA, that's Slako, Bijimi, and Aki Makinde. As we round off, I just want you to give us a bit of maybe emergency tips as per what to do really in cases of such situations of building collapse. Similar ones happened in Lagos. What are we supposed to be looking at first? At first instance, point blank, because a lot of people just would want to go and try to assist. At the end of the day, they may even be, causing more harm to themselves, while trying to help.
Thank you very much. I think the people need to be sensitized. Sensitization is the key thing, because every normal person wants to help. They may not have the skills to help. So the first issue is to cordon off the place and have those who are supposed to be there to do the rescue and make sure that we are on the same page. People normally come and crowd the place and make it very difficult for us to walk. I think we need to beef up our awareness creation and maybe train some volunteers to assist us. Beef up our awareness creation.
The next question would be for you specifically. Mr. Bijimi talked about addressing the issue of crowd control. What are your other major concerns that should be addressed during emergency situations?
Thank you very much. The situation that occurred this weekend has opened our eyes. And I want to thank the Commissioner of Police of Oyo State, who has taken interest in assisting us. And myself and the Commissioner of Police and the State Commander of NSCDC are planning a joint meeting for them to be able to assist us, condoning of whichever area that we needed their assistance during disasters like this. And he has pledged his support that he will be available and his men will be available for us to assist us. Similarly, I want to enjoin our people to make sure that they give us support when a rescue operation is being carried out. Like my colleague has said, we were
All right, I'm afraid that's as much as we can take from our end. In Ibadan, we've been speaking with Slako Lugard Bijimi. He is the coordinator, National Emergency Management Agency, Southwest Zonal Office. He was joined by Aki Makin, the Executive Secretary of the Oyo SEMA. Many thanks to both of you for joining us on the show from Oyo State. Let's just round off with Mr. Biodun Olakbade. Before we went to Ibadan, I was just talking about how many Nigerians would actually employ the services of these professionals when constructing their buildings. Just take us through very quickly what are the necessary steps to follow when constructing a building. Who do you need to see? For instance, I just want to put up a building for the very first time. How do I go about it?
Well, the first thing you do is, first and foremost, you acquire your site. And site acquisition is an essence of your father that acquires site for you, either through purchase or through lease or through other means. Then the next thing, it depends on what you want to use it for. If it is commercial renting for residential or commercial, you need to do a kind of cost and benefit analysis to know how much will this building cost you to achieve what benefit. And that is the work of an essence surveyor and follower, to do cost and benefit analysis. And then after you have done that, the next thing is to call in an architect to prepare a design for you. And during that design stage, the essence surveyor and follower that will manage the building after completion needs to be carried along, so that he will tell you the implication of certain things you are doing that will not make you to achieve your best returns at the end of the day in the cost of maintenance. And one of those things that is even causing problem in building collapse is that there are no preventive or planned maintenance. And those are costs that should be embedded into everything. Then the next thing, after the architect must have done it, the soil text engineer will prepare a detailed analysis. Then the structural engineer will prepare the structural. Then all those things put together. Of course, a quantity surveyor estimate during the trial stage of a cost and benefit analysis will have prepared a cost estimate for you. Then there will be a detailed cost analysis. Then you take everything to the town planning authority. That's when the town planner comes in. And now know the town planning is a very broad course that people often, you will now look at it. Is it a use that is permitted in that area that you are doing? And that is what we call feasibility. So if you do your feasibility and viability from the beginning and you carry all the professionals, before you even go to the town planning authority, you will tell you whether it is feasible, whether it's only residential building that is permitted, whether it's commercial building, and so on and so forth. Then intensity of you go to areas like Ikeja, GRA, Magodo, or organized schemes, you find out that it is designed for a single unit or 2 units. And you can hardly change it to commercial because they are regulated area. But what about those unregulated area? It is the town planning authority or the town planners there that will be able to tell you the implication of what you are doing. And at the end of the day, after final approval, of course, there will be a joint input of all the professionals. The town planning authority has all the professionals: structural engineer, essay surveyor, quantity surveyor, engineer, everybody, even mechanical. Because when it comes to plumbing and air conditioning, a mechanical engineer has an input. The lift another thing. So it's collective collaboration of all professionals. But before we leave the professionals, how many people consult professionals? Even within the professional, there are no synergy. Everybody wants to claim superiority on each other one. For instance, all these collapse building that has been happening, now there will be investigation report. There should be synergy among the professional to make sure that there is a report. And some reports are made public so that there will be correction on subsequent ones. When we're talking about building collapse, is so much that even in the villages, you find out that most of the collapse are not reported. You find old houses abandoned by children because once their parent dies, some of them don't go back to the villages. So even the obas, the traditional rulers, should be a stakeholders. And there should be awareness where stakeholders meeting will be called from time to time.
Thank you so much. Well, we are completely out of time. I must say a very big thank you to you for joining us on the show this morning. I know the issues, to discuss are really very, very enormous. But that's as much as we can take on the show today. A very big thank you to our guest in Lagos, Estate Surveyor Biodun Olakbade. Thanks for being a part of the show.
And of course, in Abuja, we had the President of the Nigerian Institute Institute of Building, Kenneth Ndoka. Thank you so much. And from Ibadan, Slack will look at BJME, Coordinator Nema Southwest Zonal Office, and the Akin Makinde, Oyo State Emergency Management Agency. And from Ogun State, we have Engineer Olarinwaju Apampa. He's the Chairman of Nigeria Society of Engineers, Abeokuta Branch. Thank you so much, and for you, sat back to enjoy the show. We'll be back same time again tomorrow. I'm Uche Unyekuriji. Bye for now.
And I'm Justin Akademi. Many thanks for being a part of the show. We'll return tomorrow with focusing on politics, specifically the supplementary elections that will be held across about 5 states in Nigeria. You don't want to miss that. Join us 10 a.m. tomorrow. Bye for now.
I